Again, my name's Alan Nicoletti. I'm an attorney here in Jacksonville Beach, Florida, but I do everything in Florida for practicing law, probate, trust administration. So, I mean, I even have a probate I'm about to open in Miami with 10 heirs and stuff. So I can practice and do stuff in Miami. I can go to Pensacola and do stuff. So I do a lot of probate work. I do a lot of probate. I do trust administration, quiet title, partitions. Those are completely different topics than what we're going to cover today. And I want to give it more of a relaxed, instead of one of my usual presentations, and just go on. And Omi, please chime in. If you've heard me talk about some of these things sometimes, and it's a little bit different when you're out in the field and you see the practicality versus also the theory in all the probate stuff. But I wanted to bring something different to this webinar today. I hadn't even told Omi about this, but I found also another little niche.
Oh, really?
And yeah. So probate, probate is king, right? Just like you can find as many as you want. They're all out there. There's tons. But I also found another niche where I'm really needed, and that comes in trusts. So you may come across different types of properties that are entitled in a trust. And so generally, there's a trust document. One of the trustees or the beneficiaries has the document, and there's somebody that's named a trustee. So usually they're the ones that sign the real estate contract. But sometimes, and it happens a lot in Miami, sometimes when the property's titled in a trust, the beneficiaries or the heirs, they can't find it. Nobody's named the next in line. Somebody doesn't want to serve. So you have to then think, oh boy, what are we looking at here? How do we solve this problem? How do we get somebody with authority to sell as seller, and then you have the buyer, so that when you bring it to the title insurance company, you're going to be all in line. But I'm going to go through a whole bunch of different scenarios. I'm going to talk about probate. I could talk to death about probate. I can go on and on and on. Like, Omi, I know that smirk. I know, you know what I mean. But I want to kind of cover the trust and then a little bit of the probate stuff, pique your interest just enough so that you're asking questions at the end that may be something you come across. You will come across. You came across it before, but we'll talk about it. So I got a little slide and presentation for everybody. So, you got to the screen sharing is disabled. You're on mute.
I think you can do it now. I think you should be able to do it now. There you go. Right?
Yeah.
All right, go ahead.
All right. Let me see. So go here. So I'm going to cover, you'll see me on the right side. I'm going to cover probate and trust, but first I'm going to cover trust because it is something that you're going to find more and more. You'll find it in Miami Beach. You'll find it in South Miami. You'll find it in the Gables a lot. Actually, that's where I noticed a lot more trusts, higher end value properties, people with a lot of money, and they don't want to just do a will because a will doesn't avoid probate, and they want to make sure they get great tax benefits with trust. So you find a lot of trusts, Coral Gables, Pinecrest, higher end, but there's so many in Miami. And then probate situations happen all the time. Somebody's on title, they die, and so in order to sell, you need to go through that process. So I encourage you, you'll have my info at the end, but I encourage you, add me on Facebook if you hadn't added me. I got videos I post weekly. I got content that I'm going to start rolling out more than weekly. I have podcast videos, everything. So add me on Facebook. You'll find me there, tons of content. Also, check me out on YouTube because I have a new YouTube channel. And I know Omi's really excited about it because I got a video that posts every week. And I provide really good content that a lot of people don't know about, but it is just value for you. It's not me getting up there and going, hey, everybody, I'm Al, come see me. That's not how it works. It's about giving something back and explaining it so that you issue spot. So find me on YouTube, subscribe, add me, check out the videos. There's going to be so much more content out there on the YouTube channel. But this is Omi's favorite part because I always want to preface it before I jump in. And why I go through this topic, and it's one of my favorite topics, is because we're all young here and we all know what's coming. All right. We have the biggest baby boomer generation in America right now. And Florida is a giant population of that baby boomer era. Huge. And it's only going to increase as we go from 2020, 2030, and 2040. And so what does that mean is that a lot of these baby boomers, as they age, they used to own a lot of real estate. So a lot of these baby boomers may die and they may own real estate in Miami, Broward, wherever it is. And so what you're thinking is a niche that is going to be sustainable. That's why it's kept me so busy during the pandemic, because it doesn't stop. There's more and more and more. It's been pandemic proof for me. It's been recession proof and mini depression proof. Remember that in March and April, how they said, oh, it was going to be like a mini depression? I didn't feel mini depression. I didn't feel pandemic depression. I didn't feel anything. It's been crazy. And so why is that? You got to find the right niche, and real estate obviously is the right niche, but you got to find the right niche in real estate. In the 2020, 2030, 2040s, they call that the silver tsunami, right? They call this the aging era. So when you're thinking about all of this stuff, you're thinking baby boomers, tons of title issues. There's going to be so many title issues. I had somebody call me today. They said mom was on title with daughter. And I looked up the deed, and that's how it was titled. And mom died, and there's 3 other kids, plus the one that was on 50% as an owner. And they said, do we have to do probate? And I can tell you all day, yes. Run title, make sure, but yes. So there's going to be more title issues, more probates, foreclosures. People are going to be fighting. There's so much more debt in our time we're living right now, and the baby boomers have a lot of money. So when they die, you can believe that the heirs are going to fight over money. There's going to be so much more fighting over the money. But the point that I want to cover today is the tricky trusts, trust administration, what happens when you get a successor issue, what happens when you, Omi, you find a property, you got the beneficiaries, it's titled in a trust, but they don't know where the trust is. They have no idea where the trust is. And you're going, Al, how do we sell this thing? So just because it avoids probate, right? That doesn't mean it avoids court administration. You see, that's the new little niche, because you still need me to get involved in what we got to do to solve the problem with the title insurance underwriter. So think real estate when I go over trust today. Don't think IRAs, Roths, brokerage accounts. Think real estate and the situations we find on title, because what you are doing only is issue spotting. You don't have to know all of this stuff. You just need to know just enough that when you hear that issue and you hear title insurance, there's a problem on title, the property's in a trust, issue spot. That's real estate agents and investors are the best issue spotters, because as soon as they come across it, they want to be able to contact you and say, I think we have a potential deal here. I think we have a potential problem, right? So just think about issue spotting, seeing this stuff today. So what's the basic idea of where I'm going? We all know that when you need probate, somebody on title is dead. And in order for it to go to the heirs, you have to go through probate. Okay? So John Smith dies. He's the only one on title. When you bring it to the insurance company, when you have an heir on contract, they're going to tell you, you have to do this probate thing. But there are exceptions to when you don't need probate. And if you look at the chart, we have the husband and wife tenancy. We have the joint tenants with the rights of survivorship. They call that the survival of the fittest. You have the Lady Bird deed. That's a whole other topic. But then you have the trust. So trusts avoid probate, except when you have these situations. You have irrevocable trust. So what's an irrevocable trust? Somebody created a trust during their lifetime. They die. As soon as they die, it becomes what they call irrevocable. So whenever you look up on the property appraiser, trust, or whatever you're looking up, and you see irrevocable trust, or sometimes you'll just see trustee or TR, that means that generally the person probably passed. It's now in the trustee's name, or it's an irrevocable trust. And why that's important is if there are any issues with that trust or title insurance comes back, we have to have some kind of court proceeding. If there's missing terms, maybe people don't get along, who knows what's going on. But when you see property titled in a trust, you're thinking, okay, is this person alive or are they now deceased? And what's the situation? Because you may not be out of the clear just yet. And sometimes you can't change it without court. So where am I going with that? You wouldn't believe how many estate plans are messed up. You have no idea. We see it all the time in probate. We had one, we jumped in halfway, where guy dies and he left his girlfriend a life estate, and then the children got the remainder, meaning she only owned it for her life, and then upon her death, they got the rest. But the problem is that there was ambiguity. It wasn't clear who got it, what happened. So when you think, oh, it avoids probate, right? Oh, we're good. Careful, because not necessarily are you avoiding a problem that needs to be fixed in court, because it's messed up, it's missing terms. Not every attorney knows what they're doing. They have the lady in the back typing it up. They print it out. They don't review it, and they sign it, and they got issues. Okay, so you're thinking trusts on title is a big problem. And what we need to do, I talk about this in every webinar and seminar. Always get a commitment from a title company, because you don't want to guess how title's reflected. You'll think, oh, mom died, and we had this in Volusia County. On the property appraiser, it had some reference of mom. It was mom being deceased. Okay. But when they ran it through a title commitment, they found out that the property was titled in a trust, but the trust didn't name anybody else. So this is a completely different world where you need to make sure you get a commitment every time you come across a property that's in a trust, or you have a commitment every time you have somebody that may be deceased on title. And again, if you don't know what a commitment is, ask. Find out. I don't know what title company you all like, but if you're just starting out in real estate, if you don't know what a commitment is, you have to find out, because it gives you the bottom line of what you need to do to close. If you don't know what you need to do to close, you don't know what has to be done. I have many investors, real estate agents, they'll all ask, what's a commitment? I've never seen it. I can't believe that. I guess the title companies don't share that stuff with people, because that matters for you. That matters for you, Omi, when you want to close a deal. Okay? If you don't know what you need to do, how does that help you? Okay, the past deeds are great too. But when you find out, oh, there's a lis pendens, there's a mortgage, there's a lien, there's an IRS lien, there's a probate, there's two probates. Who knows? Always get this to find out. So this is the one I had. It was kind of cool. This is the one I had in Volusia County. This is kind of what started it all. So daughter and mom and daughter came into the office, and they said, Jack dies. Jack had a will and a trust. And they showed me everything, and I looked over everything, and I was like, okay, so there's this trust, there's this will. What was the first thing that I said to them? Get a commitment. Go get title pulled and find out exactly. I don't like guessing. See, I'll tell you all day, yeah, let's do probate. Let's do trust administration. That's all great and everything. But why would I do that only to find out later we didn't have to do that, right? So I like to know everything up front. I want to know what happens. So I told them, I said, we'll make another consult another day. Go run title. So title comes back, and I bet you've never seen this before. Look at number 4. It said the successor trustee has title. There's nobody else's name except that Jack Smith, but he's dead. So the mom and the daughter came back to me and said, what do we do? Trust administration. Nobody was named as the successor trustee. What does that mean? Nobody had authority to sign your real estate contract. So if they don't have authority to sign your real estate contract, you don't have a contract, and you don't have anything to bring to title. So we as lawyers have to do some kind of court proceeding. And you'll see at that top line, it left it to some guarantee company that didn't want to serve, and nobody else was named. So just when you thought you avoided probate, because you've heard me say trust avoid probate, exception, when you have this kind of scenario. This is why it's so important you pull title. You don't know what deeds do. You don't know if somebody missed a witness, a notary, something was expired. Underwriters are so weird. Every time you think it's one way, they tell you it's another way, and then you're like, all right, now I guess we got to do it now. So this is a great example of making sure you have somebody of authority. So then, like I said, it's all about authority. But here's another one that's weird. Sometimes a trust is lost. And I had to do a lot of research on this one. We had this one come into the firm. The investor said, oh yeah, the spouse is alive, husband's alive, and there's one child. But they can't find the trust, and the property is titled in a trust. So I said, you can't even find a copy, because copies are okay in Florida if there's a copy of a trust. Not a copy of a will, completely different story. So sometimes a trust is lost. How do you solve that problem? Well, the issue flag's going up because you're thinking, how do we solve this with Al? How do we figure out what we do? And you can actually, there can be a solution to it. You wouldn't believe it, but just because there's no executed trust, we can go back to where the estate planning lawyer was, get the notes, get the file, look at an unexecuted trust, get affidavits from the beneficiary and the spouse, and file a big petition with the court to say, this is what was executed in order to put that property titled in a trust. It's crazy. And each underwriter's had a little bit of a different story about what they need. And this is why each underwriter is so different in what they do. Like Old Republic will say, oh, we need to do this court proceeding, a complaint. Or sometimes they want to say, we need to reestablish the trust. Point to you all, and the only thing you all have to realize is there is a process for this. So when you come across it, don't necessarily think you're out. Don't think that you're all gone from the problem. Yeah, we'll get to the last slide about running for the hills, but you have to think that just because there's no probate doesn't mean you don't need something else in the court system. So you're thinking, well, where do we even get these leads? I know Omi's like, all right, you've sold me now on this one. What's that?
Show me the money.
Right. So Al, that's great and everything. It's good to know that there's trust issues, but why does this help us as realtors or investors? Like, why are they good leads? Well, first of all, some of these people that own trust have 3, 4, 5, 6 properties. Do you think they want to deal with that after that person is now deceased? They are now responsible with managing all of those properties. If you can hit one trustee that doesn't want to deal with all the properties, you can probably pick up the 3 or 4 properties. You don't know that. Maybe they just don't want to manage it. Taxes, hurricane insurance, we don't have those up here. Hurricane insurance, whatever, windstorm, it adds up, and they're responsible. They can be in breach of what they call a fiduciary duty, basically meaning they had a duty and they didn't do it. They were supposed to help the trust, they didn't do it. So they're really good leads. Just like probates, trusts are great leads too. And Omi, you don't know this, but back when I was starting to do all the probate stuff, I remember hearing about this trust situation. I just didn't know how it all really came together. And it clicked right before COVID about what the difference is about trusts and what has to happen with trust administration. So trusts are great. Find the trustees. If you find a revocable trust, that person may still be alive. So FYI, not every one of these are going to be where somebody owned the real estate, a trustee is now appointed, they're deceased, and they maybe want to sell. But they're really interesting leads to find. How you basically pitch it is just like the probate pitch. I tell people, if there is ever an issue, if there's ever a problem where we need to get involved on trust administration, or there needs to be something done at the end, we wait for our attorney's fees at the end. And that's great for all of you because you don't have to worry about anything being done. Nobody's paying up front. Nobody's doing anything up front. You can wait until the end. So that's what's so different about what I'm able to do. And we just pull everything out at the end, just like probate. So people want to know, especially here, what probate is, right? So this is where I'm helping George because I know he wanted me to talk about probate too. You all want to know what probate is, and all you have to know is just transferring title. That's all. You're taking what somebody owned, they died, they own the real estate, and you're just transferring title. So the one I have in Miami right now that you all can relate to, it's like off of 117th near the Turnpike Expressway. It's like right over that area, right? So mom dies. There were 7 children of mom, but 2 died before mom. And of those 2, each one had children. There was 3 on one side, 5 on the other. 10 heirs. There's 10 people that all get title to that property. And what we are doing with probate, all probate is that transfer to the right heirs. We can't do anything. You can't sell that property. You can't quit claim it. I get that question all the time. You can't just say, oh, he died, so let me just get a deed executed from the deceased over to all the kids. You can't do that. I don't know what title company says that. I think I heard somebody say that here. And I'm like, boy, oh boy, they do not practice any law. So careful with all of that stuff. But know that all it is the transfer of title. You have to do this kind of stuff. And people always say, like, all right, you always find out, is there a will? Because the will is going to say where the property goes, who it goes to. Does it go to a trust? Does it go to individuals? Had one come up yesterday where a beneficiary signed as a witness to a will. Can't do that. You can't be a beneficiary on a will and be a witness to the will. Doesn't work like that. So when the title company asked me that question, I was like, can't do that. And then many people don't have wills. Many people don't have trust, period. So I show you this slide, not just for me going through who gets the inheritance line, but this helps with contracts, okay? Because many people only have a primary residence. They only have the primary. And what that means is that if they're a spouse, they need to be on the contract. Or their children also of the person that's deceased with spouse, they need to be on the contract. So there's a pecking order of who needs to be on it. So the one I have in Miami off 117th, all of them were the children of mom. They all need to be on the real estate contract. Never begin anything without making sure they're all on the real estate contract. You can't do that because what happens at the closing, they're going to ask you for deeds from all of those heirs on title, all of them. So you have to be sure that you have the order. And we always go, is it spouse alive? Are there children, grandchildren, parents? They don't all get it, but it's a pecking order of what we're looking for. And these are great questions to ask. You are asking pre-questions to the real questions that are coming later. You're just getting a sense. You don't have to dive into their whole family history. But knowing the inheritance line of what happens when there's no will, huge for you for title. Because you now understand that if there's a homestead involved, you need to get everybody. Because homestead plays a big role, especially in Miami. Miami requires, this is what's so crazy about Miami, because you can all relate to this now that I'm out of there. Miami is the only county in Florida that requires an affidavit from somebody that is not an heir that says that the person died, that was their primary residence. Go figure. I mean, that's a neighbor that knows about somebody for 15 years, 20 years. Homestead plays a huge role. So knowing that question about, is this their primary residence? You need to know that. You have to know that because that means anybody that's in that pecking order needs to be on the real estate contract. You have to be careful about who it is and what it is, but just know that when you ask, is this where they live? This is where they resided? Changes the whole ball game. It changes everything because these 10 heirs, all 10 heirs, have to go to the closing and sign deeds. Otherwise, it's not closing. Nobody's going to see a check. Real estate agents are not going to get the commission. Buyer's not going to get the keys. And making sure everybody had signed before means you can enforce it once title changes over. I had a situation about a couple weeks ago where mom died. It was the primary residence. There's 5 children. And I asked the agent or the investor, I said, you got all 5 on the real estate contract? Yeah, we're good. So he sends it over to me in an email. And the next thing you know, there's only 2 people on the real estate contract. Okay? No, it's not happening. Why? Because if we go forward with that probate and you go to closing, there's 3 people that never agreed to that contract, and you better believe they're probably not going to sign the deeds at the closing. I mean, that is the big thing about homestead in Florida. If you ever heard, it's why homestead is just a widely discussed topic. O.J. Simpson didn't lose his house because of homestead. He lost everything else, but he didn't lose his house, homestead. And homestead also plays a role in probate. So knowing some of these big picture things are huge. This was a question that comes up all the time with Mr. Omi. It came up even in the last webinar that we did. Reverse mortgages. They are animals of a different color, but it's nothing different than another mortgage foreclosure. The only difference is that the person that had the mortgage and was on the note died. And the banks usually give a grace period of about 6 months to a year in order for heirs to reinstate the loan. But what does that really mean? The bank only paid mom $200,000. And after accelerating the note, after many years of interest accruing, the payoff ends up being like $500,000. So in order to even get the property back, they're paying like way more money just to get it back. Sometimes it's unfortunate. And reverse mortgage companies are really difficult to deal with on short sale situations. Unless it's like a 15% reduction, they are not moving forward off 30% to 40%. They're not going to give it. And sometimes, who knows, NOVAD and for reverse mortgage solutions, maybe they do, but they're hard to do. So when you do find a reverse mortgage, that's a probate opportunity. You want to talk about a lead opportunity on probate, that's one. But you have to make sure that when you pursue that probate, you find out the payoff. And not only that, you get a title commitment, because the commitment is going to tell you how many people are on title. If you don't have it right, you're not going to get the property. It's that simple. So when you hear reverse mortgage, it's no different, except the payoff is just really high. We had one in Neptune Beach. Neptune Beach was a $600,000 piece of property. The reverse mortgage payoff was $485,000. Well, that's a beautiful opportunity, because at the sale, it got paid off. That's it. It's over. And people always ask about pre-probate versus probate. And pre-probate, property hasn't gone through probate yet. You don't know how many properties are in Miami that are still sitting around. I told Omi, how many times have I told this story? How many times have I told you?
3 million times.
How many? I told them so many times. There are so many properties in Miami right now that are still sitting in the name of the deceased, and yet no probate has ever happened for them. They're all over the place. So those are called pre-probates. And the probates are the ones that are already in probate and titles transferring over. So knowing that distinction, if you ever buy lead lists, foreclosuresdaily.com does a lot of the lead lists. There's a lot of people that buy leads in Miami from them. But knowing that difference, you don't know how many people keep paying the taxes for 20 years. They pay the taxes for 20 years, and they think at the end when the probate happens, they're going to get all the money back. They're not getting the money back. So we've seen some of the scenarios, right? Vacant homes, reverse mortgage, pre-foreclosure. Think about how many pre-foreclosures are going to happen now because of COVID and the pandemic come November, December, whether it's people that died in the interim or not. There's going to be so many foreclosures. You're going to find so many probates in the pre-foreclosures. But there's so many different scenarios that, of course, at the end, we'll entertain discussion on it. But
Question. With the pre-foreclosures, have you been seeing a lot of those lately with the pre-foreclosures?
they haven't really been filing many lis pendens yet because they're not allowing the foreclosures to proceed. So not yet, but who knows? Whenever DeSantis lifts that order, there's just going to be an onslaught of lis pendens. I mean, there's going to be lis pendens everywhere. They're going to be filing. The pre-foreclosure market is going to be crazy busy again, just like it was in 2012 and 11. But it's going to be crazy busy. So you're going to find all this. And again, can I go through everything now? No, not possible. I mean, I do videos on this stuff, and there's so many different types of probate litigation, meaning fighting over terms like life estate, fighting over the trust and money, fighting over distribution. We have one right now where the guy was old and he redid his estate plan and he gave it to the nurse. And now the beneficiaries are all pissed off. Well, do you blame them? I mean, they've been in your life for 50 years and somebody comes along and it's only been in your life for like 2 years. There's so many different crazy things out there, especially in Miami. Miami's got everything, right? If you want to find the case, it's in Miami. But knowing that there could be solutions to these problems are big. And let me just talk about this. Everybody's heard probate takes like years, right? Wrong.
Yes.
Wrong. I did a probate during the pandemic, and it had a will. It was one heir, but it doesn't matter. Miami's notorious for probates taking years. So we got it done in 2 months. Not all results are different. All results are the same right now, but everything can be different on a dime. Courts could be slow again. They could be fast again. Who knows?
Hey, Al, let them know what was the fastest probate that you've done.
Oh, I did it in Clay County. That's up here next to Jacksonville. I did it in 1 day.
That's
Open, close, done. That means it's satisfied title. I know you like that one. It's satisfied title because it's a different world up here. If you know what you're doing, you can get these things done. People up here can't even believe I can get these things done that fast. They can't believe it. I've just shut out many of the attorneys up here because it's a different process. And Miami is not really that different, except there are so many requirements in Miami. They require all these affidavits. They want all the property tax bill. They want the funeral paid bill. They want everything. It's just different. But when you hear a probate taking years, 1, 2, 3 years, unless there is serious litigation involved, that is insane. Probate should not be taking that long. Miami is different though. So can I do this anywhere? Yeah. Miami, Pensacola, everywhere. Okay. I'm just putting that slide up because if you ask, can I do it in Broward? Yes. Can you do it in West Palm Beach? Yes. Can I do it in Bay County and Panama City? Yes. Naples? Yes. So just know that the opportunity is there. Now I have to bring this slide up because I think this is a valuable slide for all of you. When do we run for the hills? You have to know when the deal is not going to work. I know we are all excited about getting a deal, but it's okay to walk away and have time valuation for something that's not going to work. Your time matters more than anything. You have to know when it's not going to work. So I think I really tweaked this slide over COVID because of a case that I was about to take on. When A and B own real estate and A wants to sell the real estate and B does not, in Florida, A can force the sale through a lawsuit of B and force the sale. So I had that kind of case come in the law firm. But the numbers were so tight. The numbers were like this. The margin was so tight. And what did we have to do? We got a commitment, but what we didn't do was get a HUD breakdown of net proceeds to seller. I got nothing. We had to withdraw. There was no money in the deal. There's no money. The realtor had to reduce their commission from 3% to 1%, and they barely got paid. They barely got paid. Yeah. So when you see that on the slide, always get a breakdown of net proceeds to seller. You want to make the seller happy, because if they get nothing, they have no motivation. You're not helping somebody try to get the money. Net proceeds are critical, and it's got to make sense to the buyer. It's got to make sense to the seller. It's got to make sense for title insurance. Just because it's good for me, you, and the seller doesn't mean it's good for title. So again, it's okay to walk away from the thing that's consuming your life for 3-4 months. It's fine. You have to be able to walk away and say no. I've had situations where people ask, I've had to say no, because it's not going to work. There's somebody asked, there needs to be a guardianship. That's where this lady, she was just losing it, and she couldn't sign the contract. She just couldn't sign it. And I think it was a $30,000 deal, and they wanted me to do the guardianship. I said no, and it worked. It was beautiful for everybody else except me, because I would have been stuck handling that guardianship until she died. And who knows when that is? 10 years, 15 years, could be forever. But it doesn't make sense. So just know you have to be able to say no. If you have a probate issue, call me. If you have a trust administration thing, call me. Run title. Always get a commitment. You have my Facebook. You have my email. If you want to be on a newsletter. I do a newsletter twice a week. One to talk about my YouTube channel, and the other that has really good content. It's just like a little thing that talks about a ladybird deed, a will, or just a little information. Drop your email in the comment box. I will add you to the newsletter. Okay? Drop your email there so I have it. And this is my email, so you have it. That's the best way to reach me. So again, you find me on Facebook. Add me. Go on now. Add me. Find me there. There's tons of videos, tons of stuff. Omi, I'm going to be rolling out so much more content.
Oh, awesome.
There's going to be so much more. I'm going to do more live, because you've seen the progression.
Yep.
I wasn't doing video before.
I'm a guy from no social media to like all over the place now.
All over Facebook, on YouTube now.
I see emails are being dropped. I wanted to know, does anybody have any questions for Al right now that he can help you out with at the moment? Drop it in the chat box, or just unmute yourself and ask a question if you do have a question right now. Nope, nobody?
Yes, I have a question.
Okay, go ahead.
Well, if a person has a will and it has a trust, they have to still go to probate? Is that what I understood?
So the way you officially know is pulling title. If the property is titled, the way that the deed is titled in a trust, generally no, except you always want to make sure you run that by your title company, because there could always be an issue whether the deed was not good or title insurance. Title insurance is just weird. A will does not avoid probate. Even though there's a will, you still need probate. Actually, I just did this video on my Facebook. I just posted it. Does a will avoid probate? No.
Mm-hmm.
No, I only saw it. So a trust avoids probate, maybe. Oh, it depends on the situation. But trust avoid probate, but they may not avoid trust administration.
That's good to know. So yeah, any other questions? If not, I recommend you guys, you follow Al on YouTube, follow him on Facebook. I watch all his stuff. His information is very valuable. And, there go his email right now. There go his number as well. So you can reach out to him, contact him, subscribe to his newsletter, because the information he puts out is very simple and super easy to read. Like, I learn something new all the time from your newsletter, Al. And I go out and I share with the clients, and they're like, wow, I did not know that. So thank you again, Al. Appreciate the time.
Thank you.